Hi everyone, welcome to Thrive with Dext. We're here to just give you a few tips on our experience, both myself and Simon, around how we used Dext over the last number of years. Just to give you an overview of what we're going to be discussing today, it's just 3 key points: how to be more productive and less reactive, streamlining your processes, and delivering a better service with technology. So as I said, it's with Simon and myself and just us. So if you didn't already realize, Simon and I are brothers and we run Iridium Business Solutions. Simon, maybe you can just tell everyone a little bit about Iridium and our journey so far in the cloud accounting space.
Sure, thanks, Peter. So we've been running Iridium since 2013. I started out thinking, like every good accountant does, let's start a business. I know accounting, I've got a degree, I'm a qualified accountant, let's go down that road. And very soon after that, Peter joined. And along that journey, we realized very quickly we needed to be digital, we needed to be in the cloud. And I was introduced to Xero very early on, probably 2014, late 2013, early 2014. And we've never really looked back from there. We constantly look for ways to improve and become more digital every step of the way.
Cool. And I think if I remember the early days of Iridium, we used to get a whole lot of files from our clients in boxes. It wasn't too fun, but it was a way of making money. We did this for 2-3 years. It didn't help us scale very easily, but it was the way everyone did things. So we didn't really know any other way of doing things. We knew Xero did things a bit faster for us, and that was pretty much it until we met a gentleman by the name of Nelson De Silva, who was part of the first the first Xero roadshow in South Africa, up in Johannesburg. Met him on the top of one of the big hotels there, had a drink with him, and he sold us the dream. Wasn't quite sold the night before the event, but it was a great Xero roadshow, and it made us think a little bit more. And we actually straight after that decided, look, let's have a go. Let's see if we can make this work. It's a lot of extra money, but maybe Nelson's onto something. And that was probably like 4 or 5 years ago at least. And we've grown quite significantly since then. And every single one of our clients that has ever joined us since has been added to Dext, which used to be called Receipt Bank. So we're big fans of Dext, and let's tell you a little bit more about our journey and how we've used it.
Pete, maybe it's worthwhile to mention to guys, when we started out using the Dext, we had this kind of internal debate, should we use Dext, shouldn't we use Dext? And it kind of came down to, it felt like expensive, because we looked at it originally and we said, it's going to cost us, and I think back then it was like 5,000 or 10,000 Rand for, if we had to use it across our entire practice. I said to you, but I can hire 2 juniors at that kind of price, very low paid juniors, but I could hire 2, basic admin people. And surely it's faster just to get guys to smash all these invoices into Xero than paying for a software product which captures data. I didn't quite see the logic there. And I know we eventually kind of decided that there must be something to this, and we went down that road. And that's kind of how we got there. But that initial process was I'm giving money for a product that does what I can just pay people to do. It was definitely a grapple at the start.
Yeah, and I think I remember Nelson saying, it's about your processes and getting the right kind of pieces in the right places. And it all sounded a bit wishy-washy. It all sounded like you're just selling me on this product rather than anything else. But I'm really glad that we kind of joined and took that leap of faith at that point in time, because now we're still able to grow quite significantly, and it's significantly improved our overall processes within our business. and made getting information a lot quicker from our clients, and making it a lot more uniform. So without giving up too much on slide number 3, let's kind of tick forward to see where we want to go with this. And as we spoke, this concept of being proactive versus reactive, and everyone wants to be proactive, and I think most often the time in accounting, it feels like we're reactive. It feels like we're coming in after the fact, a month after the fact, maybe even 2 months, depending on what client you're dealing with, and having to pick up the pieces and having to tell the story far away from the actual reality of when it happened. So, Si, I mean, is this something that resonates with you? I know for me, it doesn't necessarily resonate anymore, the concept of being reactive, because I think, as an organization, we are quite a proactive bunch of accountants.
Yeah, I think it's funny because every accountant, when you talk to them, they're selling pitches. I'm a proactive accountant. I'm on top of my game. And the word proactive has probably been thrown around far too much. And I think people have lost the kind of logic of what the meaning is. And just to kind of reiterate it, this is not a Urban Dictionary definition or an Oxford Dictionary, but proactive means getting ahead of the game. Not waiting for something to happen to deal with it, but ensuring you get something earlier and beforehand to make things work better in the long run. So it's setting up their meeting with a client to have their management accounts reviewed and discussed 4 weeks beforehand. It's getting the VAT report out on the 15th of the month when it's due on the 31st. It's getting ahead of the game. And I think that's a perfect analogy or discussion point around why we love technology, and why we love using this product. A lot of clients are not proactive with their own accounting, and a lot of customers that we've taken over from people or other accountants who've been helping these guys on desktop solutions are very much not proactive. They are waiting for the client to pay for something. Once they've paid for it, it's going off their bank account. And after it's gone off the bank account, the accountant is saying, what was that? So it's kind of after the fact, I'm thinking about what happened. I'm now recording it. That's probably one of the reasons why I stopped being an auditor, because I realized that auditing was recording something was very after the fact. There was no thought process of how can I do it better or how can I help the business. It's let's comment on what happened last year. And I think that's one of the things I love about using a system where an invoice can be generated today from a supplier, and that's put into their Dext account this afternoon from the customer, and tomorrow morning one of my guys can be reconciling that, and at the end of the week when the customer does his payments run, he sees everyone he owes money to and it's all there. That's very proactive. That's not reacting like 4 weeks after the fact, and that's what I love about being in the cloud.
Yeah, and I mean, you raised a number of great points. I think for me, what I often see as we have over the years, taking over a company and almost looking at the accounting and saying, this is so bad, I think we need to reprocess the last 6 months or year. I remember we took over this one client and we had to reprocess 2 years worth of accounting. And I got 4 of my team around a table with all the files. And within, I think it was 2.5 hours, we had captured 2 years worth of supplier invoices. And we're able to kind of catch this client up within a week or two. And it was 2 years worth of data. So for me, that's a crazy thing to be able to do. If I took those same 4 people with that same amount of time, I'd never be able to get the same results. So it definitely allows you to be faster, and that kind of threads through across every single client. If you're able to do things faster, you're able to be more proactive and provide better advice to your clients. So
100%, Peter. You know, one thing I actually love as well is that that getting of documents and getting source documents to link off against transactions in the bank. A lot of accountants don't think you need to run an accrual-based system of accounting. You know, they just code off the bank from a cash basis. You know, and I know last year we picked up with one of our clients, there was actually fraud in the company, but where the previous accountant had recorded transactions, and internally they had paid the same supplier a few times, and it just hadn't gone to that supplier's account. It had actually been paid to another person's account. And we only picked that up by doing a full processing of that account and putting all the documents through Dext into Xero. And when we were allocating payments off the bank, we suddenly started realizing that when we were matching payments off the bank against invoices, we had leftover payments and no more supplier invoices or anything on the statements. Now, you're not going to pick that up if you're cash coding. You're just going to end up with a really poor GP, and you're not going to know why. And I think the ability to detect fraud, you know, that should always be a byproduct. That's not your main focus. But wow, the client was pretty impressed with us after we picked up all those errors, and it resulted in a significant amount of money that had gone the wrong way.
Yeah, I mean, without giving like exact numbers, it was over R1 million that had been taken from the business that we had picked up, and that was within the first 10 days of taking over the client. So yeah, it definitely helps having better solutions in place and better technology. I think a couple of the things that if I was thinking about Dext are great additions to the solution that are not even the receipt capturing aspect of it. And I had a client earlier last week, without me even showing them this function, start using it and tell me about it. And it's that concept of being able to, from the Dext platform, actually notify people that have used the mobile app of a question around the particular piece of information. So they had typed in a little message and sent that message from the platform to the actual direct user who captured that document. And for me, that was a great little tool. They didn't have to jump onto WhatsApp or give the person a call. They could just pop them a notification directly whilst they were coding in the platform to query a particular document. And I thought that it's a really nifty little addition to the platform that's been rolled out in recent years that people probably aren't really using, but actually is really beneficial if you just let your clients know about it. So what do you think? I mean, we've been around for a number of years, and so I think we're used to the practice dashboards by now. But what do you find helpful about them?
Yeah, I think what I love using them, and because I log in the morning on like a Monday morning, and I go and filter by the most outstanding transactions. And then I kind of, internally in our company, we break up our accountants into teams. And I always like to see on my team, who's got the most outstanding, and who's not on top of their work, or just kind of run through them really quickly and see where things are at. And that gives me a great feeling of kind of comfort that I can see there's not a lot of transactions that are outstanding for certain clients. And I know the clients, so they get anxious and get difficult. And if those guys start building up a little bit there, I kind of just drop a quick Slack message to one of the guys in our team. Hey guys, can you please get on that today? I'm sure you've got a lot on your plate, but let's get on top of that. And it makes a massive difference just to know that we're kind of keeping on top of things. Whereas in the past, it would have been a client sharing a Dropbox or Google Drive folder with us, or a couple of emails back and forward from the client as they shared supplier invoices. My visibility of what people had on their plate was zero. So I had no way of knowing who was on top of their work and who wasn't. I mean, I think that talks to the third point as well. If someone's drowning in work, often guys don't tell you because they think it's like a negative thing and it's a stigma. I must just suck it up and work late. I love the fact that I can log into Dext and I can see what's going on. And if I really want to, I can actually go and see in the archive section, and I see someone's working at like 12 o'clock on a Friday night. That's not right. you know. So I love that visibility of transactions. I can see when things were pushed through. I can see what's going on. You know, when a client says he gave something to me weeks ago and I see it only went to Dext yesterday, I can be like, that's not actually what happened. So I think that, you know, being an analytical person, I love being able to, you know, talk exactly to what happened and the volume and the transactions, and feel comfort that I've got that kind of insight.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, other thing that I think I've probably found quite useful is the concept of like suppliers on auto publish. Now, I mean, in my mind, there's no perfect percentage for that. It really depends per client. But if you've got clients across your practice and that have 0% on auto publish, there's time wasted. And for those that don't really know what that means, is once you've created a rule in Dext for a particular client, so let's say I'm dealing with Vodacom and I say that needs to be telephone and internet, and I've seen that come through multiple times and Dext picking it up time and time again correctly, you should not need to see that again in your inbox. You should actually just put it on auto publish, which means it publishes automatically. So it hits Dext, codes it to telephone, publishes it directly down into 0. Now for me, that's a big win. It means you're only dealing with things that you're unsure about, ones that are not sitting in a supplier rule, and things that you're still not quite sure that Dext is picking up accurately. So you're waiting for it to almost make sure that it is accurate enough before you publish. You shouldn't need to kind of do the same thing over and over and over and over again, because you're wasting time. So for me, that suppliers on auto publish, I think it's really important to look at and try and increase that number and make sure that you're utilizing the system for what it's got.
Well, one of my favorite things I actually like to do is I log into multiple clients on Dext and I go into the supplier section on Dext, and then I go and filter by the number of transactions per supplier. And I like to have my top 10 suppliers that all have supplier rules that I'm happy with. And for any of those ones that I'm very comfortable I can auto publish, I auto publish. Now, what I've realized is, and it frustrates me, is sometimes I'll go into one of my team's accounts, the entire account is processed, but there's no accounting fees for the month. Now, I like my invoice to be processed first because obviously I'm the most important person to get paid every month. So what I do is I go into 0, and when I send out the repeating invoice every month for my clients, I make sure that I put their Dext address as the second person who gets CC'd, in on that invoice. So when the client invoice goes out on the 1st of every month, and that's when we bill 1st of every month, it goes, "Dear Mike, please find attached your invoice." The email address is Mike, and then the next address is mike.building@dext.cc. And I know Mike sent the invoice there now because I sent it there myself. And I auto-publish my invoice and it's in 0. So the first thing that Mike sees when he looks at his payables is my invoice for the month. And that makes sure that I get paid quicker. And it also looks really bad when my team's trying to recon it. And I've had new people in my team ask Mike for our invoice. And Mike kind of sends me a WhatsApp and says, "Simon, why are you asking for your invoice? Surely your guy should have access to that." And it's kind of one of those moments where you kind of cringe as an owner and you think, flip, I better make sure this is in every time, all the time.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point, and it's definitely a proactive approach from an accountant. So let's kind of move on to the concept of streamline your processes. And we don't have a pretty slide deck for this. It's pretty much us talking. And I think this was one of the grapples that we had when we started out with Receipt Bank was, why can't we put a person and they can do it just as fast as this piece of technology? And looking back now, I kind of realized that that concept of getting a file a month later is the starting point of being, more proactive, but also streamlining our processes. The fact that we're able to get documentation on the go as it happens. So often the fun thing Simon and I both like doing is when the owner has a credit card, is to tell them, download the app, and when you get one of those slips, you go to Pick and Pay, or you go to Woolies, or you go to a coffee shop, open that thing, or take that slip, open your app, snap it, and throw the slip away. And they get a lot of excitement around, they can kind of chuck a slip away. I've had one or two people freak out when they saw me throw some of their slips away. But for the most part, it's excitement because they don't have to deal with it. They don't have to keep it in a wallet. They don't have to, hassle their admin lady to go and upload it somewhere. And so for them, they're more than happy to do it. And so as they do that, we're actually getting the documentation flowing in real time. And for me, that's probably one of the biggest wins when it comes to Dext is that real-time retrieval of documentation.
And that's actually the biggest question I've always had, Peter, is I tell someone, take the picture, throw it away. And the first question they ask me is, but won't SARS want the original? And it kind of blows my mind because it shows how little they understand about the SARS process. Like, when last has SARS come to your office and gone through your file? That's not the way they work, and the most likely area of, document review is a refund on a VAT return where SARS is asking for supporting documentation. And any accountant will know that all they really want is the VAT report and the 5 largest supplier invoices. And when you've uploaded those invoices, which means they're ready in a digital format, you've met the requirements. So, when people think through this process, and they distrust me initially because they think, no, they need the original. And we go through the thought process, they realize they don't need the original anymore. And then they look around their office and go, well, what am I going to do with all those filing cupboards? I've got hundreds of files for the last few years, like what's Metrofile going to do? And it makes me think maybe I shouldn't be buying Metrofile boxes anymore to store them because I don't need to store stuff like that. So I think it's a great kind of process to, to change the way you do things. And Pete, I don't know if you remember when we started out this process, one of those kind of ideological debates we had was, aren't clients going to ask for a reduced fee? Because they're going to go, but I'm doing all the work. You guys aren't even capturing my supplies anymore. It's my work. Why should I pay for that? And it's completely the opposite. Like, it's crazy. People were like, this is amazing. I get to put my stuff in, like, it's so much easier. I used to hate having to store my file for my accountant and send you stuff. Now it just goes in there and I'm so happy. And we're sitting here going, oh my gosh, I'm glad he didn't ask for a discount because it's less work for me every month. It was like a weird kind of discussion we had.
Yeah, I know. And I think for me, the additional cool thing is if any of our clients actually had to ever need documentation, it's actually faster to get it through Dext. It kind of auto catalogs everything in the archive, so I can just search by any supplier and download the last 12 months telephone accounts if I wanted to, or whatever, all in one PDF. So I've often used that for like when I'm doing an audit and somebody wants certain pieces of documentation. It's incredibly quick to find through the archive. So for me, it's a no-brainer in terms of streamlining the receipt capturing process. I think the other benefits that I've seen, that we've spoken about, Simon, is that it allows you to streamline the bookkeeping, or this document needs to go to this place in Xero, or in whichever accounting package you're using, because Dext isn't Xero only. It actually works with a number of different accounting packages. We just happen to be a Xero only firm, but it definitely works with multiple packages, and it allows that bookkeeping process to be a lot more streamlined than in the past. I mean, you can't streamline and automate your capturing without a tool like Dext. Xero by itself doesn't allow you to do that. So it really is a one-up in that regard. What other areas do you think, Simon, it allows us to streamline?
Yeah, I think maybe I'll use an example of where I actually worked it on a client. You know, I've just done a project with a client now. We've migrated 8 restaurants and a head office to Xero, and at the same time we implemented Dext. And what we found like incredible with this process is there was so much data. You know, on a daily basis, each of those restaurants had like a bread delivery, a meat delivery, a vegetable delivery. Like the volume of transaction was just like exponential, you know, and the way things worked is each restaurant manager would like store the documents in like a little folder, you know, and once a week the driver would go around and pick up all the documents, and then the accounts lady would sit there and, you know, and then sometimes they'd scan documents in from the restaurant, and other times they'd drop them off, and it was this long-winded process, you know, and when it came to payments, they literally just paid from what the restaurant managers listed down. So there was this complete disconnect between the actual invoice, you know, the payment and what went off the bank. And there was definitely a lack of management in those supplier accounts, you know, and once they implemented Xero and Dext, you know, within a few weeks, the kind of financial director was saying, I actually realized I paid the wrong suppliers last month before we put this in place, and I had no visibility of what's going on. And now he's like, now I know exactly what's going on. I've got all the source documents. I actually realized that we're paying too much for this product from this supplier. I kept telling the guy in Joburg not to order from this guy because we get a better discount in Cape Town. And now I've got this kind of complete visibility. And he's just so excited about what it's done. And it's made it so much more transparent, you know, because he was working on a desktop-based software product. He literally waited for 3 or 4 weeks after month end, got like a fixed PDF pack from his accountants, and they said, oh, by the way, you've got to pay 100,000 Rand tomorrow for that. So there was like no kind of sight and visibility. Now he's like, hey, it's a bit of work to get things going, but once it's going, like, this is cool. You know, he's like, I'm auto-publishing this thing, I'm pushing that one through. We've actually changed a few of our ordering processes because we realized the documentation was not really efficient, and the whole process is better. And now they're pushing back on suppliers going, I want emailed statements that I want you to drop them off at the restaurant. You know, how do we make this more online? And it's really exciting. The discussions that start happening around that, and all of that's process driven. You know, that's because the software is enabling a better process.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, so I think we've done a number of tech companies in the last few years. What we've, and this is partly going to sound bad, but also kind of show that that Dext really does improve processes. We, you know, one thing that we found, most tech startups have multiple departments and multiple credit cards. So within Dext, we typically, for all the credit card holders, set up separate users. And once you set up a separate user, you're also able to link that user to a particular payment process within Dext. So you could say, every time a document comes from this person, defaulted to paid, and defaulted to paid to this particular bank account in Xero. So that you're not building up your bills in the payable section, but you're actually just marking them automatically off as paid. And we found that's generally been quite a good process to put in place, and it's sped up their internal processing. Similarly, if they've got a marketing department, a finance department, you know, a sales department, creating separate users for those guys, and all the documentation go directly into that user, and that's allowed us to use Xero's tracking category to automate the departmental reporting. Out of all of that, what we realized as well, whenever we go into like a tech startup, we find that there's a couple of people in the team that are generally the processing people, and maybe the accounts payable person plus an accounts payable junior or two. And we've found that as a result of implementing Dext, we typically find that there's not enough work in the accounts payable section for 2 or 3 people, and you start to surface and say, look, these people could be used in other ways, in different ways, other than just sitting there capturing documents, because that's a waste of their time. Unfortunately, some of them actually don't last in the company, but overall, it certainly improves that process and allows them to move into different spaces if they're able to. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey whenever we look at doing a project like that, to see how the team changes and migrates into the different parts of the business. Cool. So I think we've driven home a little bit too much about streamlining your processes. I think the last kind of topic that I want to chat about is the concept of, it's a great piece of technology, and it's not just a great piece of technology, but it also allows us to provide a better service to our clients.
I've got a great thing here to talk to on that, Pete. I actually remember that 2 years ago, I had a chat with a prospective client. It was pre-COVID, so he met at our office and we had a sit down, and I talked him through what was going on. And at the end of the session, I think we had one of the guys from Receipt Bank who had given us a big banner the month before. So it was this big banner like behind the client, and it had a picture of a photograph, of a slip, and it was like some cafe. I think it was Cafe Nude or something. I don't know what it was. It was a little till slip, and I'd explained to the client what that software did, and the guy was like, "I'm in." I'm like, "What do you mean you're in? Like, you haven't even heard my sales pitch." He's like, "With technology like that, I'm in." So we had effectively sold this client because of Dext, and it wasn't because of any of the accounting process. He was just so excited about having an app, on his phone, and he signed up for us like a couple of days later. And the following week he phoned me and he was like, "Oh, things are amazing. I'm loving this." He's like, "It's the first time I've had a braai on the weekend, and I've told my friend how cool this tech is." And he said he pulled out his cell phone and showed them how he takes pictures on his phone. And he was like, I was like the cool kid because I was talking about my accounting, and I was like, wow, that's cool. I think that's why we're in this space, because this is not like boring accounting. This is like technology kind of meets accounting, and this technology is enabling clients to get excited about processing a slip. Like, I actually had a client asking me, can I process those slips? Because I enjoy shooting them into Receipt Bank, or to Dext now. And it was just like, wow, okay.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the many stories that we've had over the last few years around kind of client experience, and how utilizing tools like Dext in our core software stack has enabled us to grow and scale our practice to being a Zero Platinum partner. And yeah, I mean, Dext literally is one of the 3 core applications within our software stack that we offer non-negotiable to every single client that comes through the door. And we don't even blink an eye. We just say, here's Dext, and let them run right. And I think by doing that, it's allowed us to kick out our reporting much quicker. It's allowed us through COVID to really provide a great level of service to our clients, and go above and beyond when they're really struggling. And I know last year was our best year ever in terms of taking on new clients, because people were in search of good technology that can help them run their business remotely. And I think we added a silly amount, like something like 60 clients last year during the COVID times that are all now using tools like Dext and Xero. So I think just allowing us to do things faster, and allows us to get onto the, the important stuff afterwards, like sitting in front of a client and talking to that client about their business. And when you've got good, solid information that you can back up that conversation with, well, then you're able to partner with your clients on a much better, stronger level. So yeah, for me, it's a great part of our tech stack that has really lifted up our service offering. Anything else, Simon, from your side?
Yeah, I think one thing that's quite cool as well is, I think 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago, I started seeing accounting platforms purchasing OCR software, which is effectively what Dext, or one of the elements of Dext is. And I looked at that and I saw, the different platforms buying out software products. And I thought what was really exciting, and one of the reasons why we ended up staying with Dext, is that Dext said, look, we're not going to be like a one-trick pony. We're actually building out other solutions. And around that time, I think they just purchased Xavier, which was I don't know what the simplest way of describing is, but effectively it's a tool to evaluate your accounting processing and accounts, and to give you a score, like a health check. Like you've got a 60% or 50%, and then giving you advice on what you could do to improve that. So change these 10 things. Every time you process your Vodacom bill, you take it to telephone, but last month you took it to consulting fees. So that's a great kind of thing to surface up for me. Clearly, I made a mistake there. And I think almost having this idea internally of I'd like all my clients to be at a certain percentage, because then I know that things are actually on track, and having the ability to log in and go, I was charging this client a certain fee for the last year. Let me see how many transactions are going off his bank account and how many invoices he's raising. And when he's quadrupled in volume across there, I just keep processing it because I think, that's how things work. But that's a great bit of information to go to the clients and say, bud, you smashing it out the park. I need to charge you more. And it's amazing how with a bit of information and you have that discussion with your clients. I think our last client we went to and we said, hey, I'm charging you X. I've looked at the volumes you've just rocket shipped in the last 12 months. I shouldn't be charging the same anymore. And the guy was like, okay, you're right. How much should I charge? And it was such an easy discussion to have because I had a tool that gave me that information.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for us as a business, we're always looking for ways to improve our overall solution, both to clients and also just internally. And I think Dext and the other and Xavier and I know they're building out additional solutions. They all feel like they're not only great for our clients but also great for us internally to improve the quality of our practice. So I believe we've got a couple of questions that we're going to answer. Just they were received earlier, and we've added them onto slides. So I think they're quite relevant. So yeah, let's jump straight into them. And I think Sai, you can take the first one.
Thanks, Pete. How best to use Dext Prepare? So that's the receipt bank used to be called Receipt Bank. Now it's Dext Prepare. I keep having to correct myself and get used to it, but when we say the word Dext, we generally been talking about Dext Prepare, but the other Dext is Dext Precision. How best to use it to keep an eye on everything? And I think we've kind of answered this question to a degree. I mentioned earlier, I like to log in, look at the dashboard as an accounting business owner, and get a feel of where the transactions are going, in the system. And who's kind of, who's building up a little bit too much, and also who hasn't submitted anything in a while. If I've got a client who hasn't submitted anything in a long time, that's just as problematic as someone who's been over submitting and we kind of not coping. And I think that's definitely the visibility for me. And yourself, Pete, do you have anything else to add?
I mean, there is the client view from a dashboard perspective is probably the most helpful. There is a kind of practice view, but to be honest, don't often go into this. I like much rather digging into looking which clients are the challenges. But it is interesting to have a brief look at the practice view. I think there might be some stuff that's interesting to look at that. And I think one of the main things it does show you is across the board where people are submitting and kind of how many documents have been submitted through Dext in total, as well as what's currently outstanding. So give you a silly example, in our practice view, we've got 4,300 items waiting to be published, which is it's a big number, but when you take it over the number of clients we have, it actually isn't too bad. It also talks about overall across your practice, how many are auto published and how many are digitally submitted. Now, digital submissions are anything other than going in and dragging and dropping. They're the email ins and the mobiles. So there are some interesting things, but I think for the most part, the client view is definitely the right solution in terms of getting a good overview. So yeah, let's check on to the next question. So I have a small practice that I want to grow. How can Dext Prepare benefit me now? And how can it help me grow and attract clients? So yeah, I mean, I think when we took it on, we're relatively large. I think we had got up to about 100 clients at that point. So I would say we're probably more of a medium than a small practice. But let's say you're a practice of 15, 20 clients, and you've got maybe 2 or 3 team members that are working on your clients. How I see it is that it allows you to have a much more streamlined approach to capturing all the information, which means that those 2 or 3 people that are doing the accounting potentially can take on more clients than if they were doing all the getting all the files at the last minute. They're able to spread the work over the month and end up taking on a little bit more work, allowing you to scale the business, and also be a lot better quality or a lot better at the quality of work that they're producing, because they're using rules rather than having to think about it every single time as to where I put something last. So for me, it's about that spreading the work out and having a more unified approach allows you to take on more work and allows you to grow. And I think Simon hit the nail on the head when you're talking about the solution to clients. It's a great solution to reduce their need for files or having to drive around and drop stuff off or scan stuff at the end of the week onto a Dropbox or Google Drive or any of those places. So it's about adding a tool into your tech stack that really allows you to kind of scale nicely. Si, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I think just 2 quick things I'll add to that. We've got 1 or 2 clients where they've got a large finance team and they don't want to manage their supplier processing. As a small business who's trying to get going, you want to get money in, you want to get revenue going, you want to help this business grow. A lot of small businesses have taken a big hit in the last year and they're struggling to pay bills and they're not able to pay for an outsourced accountant. A lot of the larger firms are trying to say, hey, I want to downscale my finance team. There's an opportunity to outsource that function. So for us, we've got a client where they've outsourced the creditor processing and management to us. That's all we do. We're just doing one element. They've got qualified accountants managing the overall picture. We're doing one piece of the pie for them, and they're really happy that we can own that and do it really well. And we wouldn't be able to do that without Dext. So that's a great win for us. And I think the second thing is when you're a small business, everyone's going to be jumping and helping each other. And I think the visibility that Dext is going to give you in terms of processing documents for clients, everything's in there. You know, so if I'm not at work today and Peter logs into the account and he sees that, hey, my client's got 15 things sitting in his Dext account, you know, assuming I'm responsible for some clients and Peter's doing others, he can jump in there, process Dext and send it off to Xero. And when I come back from my day's leave or my week's leave, everything's up to date and we just keep rolling. You know, and I think that's a great ability to work together, which you just wouldn't have without that tool.
Yeah, no, I fully agreed. So, and I think the last question we had was, how can I sell the value, prepare features, ads to clients who simply want me to carry out compliance work?
Oh, great question. Hey, the whole value, should I charge, shouldn't I charge, makes me come to mind as soon as I see this question, Pete. I remember at the start there, we had that big debate, you know, how do we roll this out? Because we were looking at Dext and going, it costs us, and I can't remember what it cost back then. Let's pretend it was 100 Rand a company, you know, and we said it's going to cost 100 Rand a company. Our discussion was the client's not going to want to pay for it, you know, and we kind of said, well, but it's good. They want to pay. And then we had this back and forward process, you know, and we got to the point of going, how about we give it away for free? Then they can't really argue. And then it just is what it is. You know, so Pete raised up earlier that concept of we have 3 tech solutions that every client has to use. It's so much easier to make something mandatory when it's free. You know, so when we work with clients, they pay for Xero, they get Dext for free, and the third solution, which is Simple Pay for payroll, they get that for free as well. You know, so we're throwing those all in. Now the client can't argue with you. You've given them a free solution, which is mandatory. I've sold the value. It's making our process better. And the reason why you came to us is because we're going to be better than your last accountant. You know, so I think in my mind, that's how I would answer that, Pete.
Yeah, and I think the interesting approach we've also followed when taking on clients, and this is not necessarily relevant to everyone, but we don't want to take on a client who thinks we're just bookkeepers that can process books and tick boxes, because now you guys need to agree or disagree, but I think nobody likes just doing compliance work, just being seen as the compliance person. And so for me, the thing I also often think about is, when you're taking on a client, if they're only seeing you as the person that's going to do those tick boxes of compliance, they're probably also not going to want you to charge them very much in general. And so adding additional solutions into the mix, they might not even feel like there is any value to those solutions. So I think built into this is, are you picking your right clients? Are you picking clients that see the value that you as an accountant or accounting practice can add to their business, and not just the compliance, but much more than that, being a trusted advisor or a partner to their business. And if they're saying that, well, then, these are the solutions that allow you to do that. So I think rephrasing, your actual offering to clients, and not just saying you're a compliance person, you're the bookkeeper, but actually really going a little bit beyond that. So you're a financial professional. So there's a lot that you can add to every single business, and ticking boxes isn't the only thing you add. And so I think by using tools like Dext Prepare and Xero, you're able to get to that those value-adding services a lot quicker, and get rid of the compliance work a lot quicker, so that the client's getting more bang for their buck. So I think there's multiple ways you can approach it. I think you need to think a little bit around your service offering and the value that you add as an accountant when you're engaging with clients, and make sure you're picking the right clients. Yeah, I think we're running out of time today, so I'm just going to pop down to one last page. If you found anything interesting during today, then please feel free to get in touch. This is just something that we we're more than happy to help. It's a weird thing in the cloud accounting space. Accountants share knowledge with each other, and we're more than happy to share knowledge of our journey and the tricks and the tips that we've picked up along the way. We certainly don't know everything. We just have been around for a while and made a lot of mistakes. So if you feel like chatting to either of us, pop us an email, and we're more than happy to chat. Si, do you want to have a final say?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah, it's actually been fun to kind of walk down memory lane a bit about our process with Dext, and it's always good to reflect in any business and kind of why you made decisions and how you got there. I just like to strongly encourage everyone to not sit back and be reactive to where you're at. Improve your process, gamify it if you need to. Find a way to make this exciting and make your clients excited about it, because you didn't start your accounting practice or your accounting business to just tick over and be compliant. You started it because you felt you had some value to add to clients and people out there. So get excited, pull up your socks, make it happen. And the guys at Dext will be very happy to walk you through a journey and talk you through a way of improving your practice. And like Peter said, you can cheat. You can see what everyone else is doing because they're sharing their advice. I don't always know why we do it, but we seem to like helping people in the cloud space. And I suppose the logic is, the idea is worth nothing. It's all about the execution, the implementation. And I suppose that's where we all like to think we've got the competitive advantage. So thank you very much for watching this webinar today. And I really hope you have a great experience in the cloud. And when we're allowed to meet in person, I look forward to chatting to more accountants out there and challenging you on where you're at with your tech stack. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.